Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Welcome to Adventures in Consciousness, the interactive show that offers expansive conversation with pioneering new thought teachers and personal real-time guided journeys into the imaginal realm to access your soul's wisdom and discover how to live your greater story. Here is your host, human potentialist, soul mentor, and consciousness guide, Jennifer Ivanko.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to another Adventures in Consciousness, the conversation. Have you ever considered the power you hold in shaping your reality? It's a concept both liberating and daunting. When life flows smoothly, it's easy to agree with this notion that we create our own world. But what happens when the road gets bumpy? It's often far more challenging to accept that we might have a hand in sculpting our struggles. We're quick to take credit for the good things in our life. However, the shadows, the setbacks, the storms, those seem to come from elsewhere. But what if we dare to entertain the notion that they too are woven from the fabric of our consciousness? Consider this. Personal struggles, whether they involve money, relationship, health, or other challenges, often leave us feeling powerless, as if fate dealt us a tough hand. Yet within these very challenges lies a profound opportunity for deep personal growth and self-discovery. Today, I'm excited to share with you a conversation with a dear friend and mentor, Shama Viola. Shama embodies a wealth of wisdom cultivated over 4 decades of spiritual exploration. Her journey from her roots in Italy to her present home in the Federation of Damanhur reflects a global odyssey marked by encounters with masters, refinement of esoteric expertise, and immersion in diverse cultures. She is deeply committed to sharing her wealth of knowledge and guiding others along their path of self-discovery. Shama, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's always a pleasure to be with you and with your audience.
So today I'd like to explore the topic of something that's important to the human condition. It's the concept that we create our own reality.
It's a favorite of mine.
A favorite of yours, exactly. So I'd like to first talk to you about how you became connected to this topic. What do you feel about, how did you realize that we create our own reality?
Well, it took a long time, meaning I started my spiritual journey in 1972. So it took a while for all the various teachers that I had to make me understand the importance of this particular thing, that we do create our own reality. And, it's so easy for us at times to say it and actually believe it to some degree if things are going well. And, I created my own reality, I got this success or whatever. But when we all of a sudden find ourselves in a difficult situation, an illness or a loss of a relationship or a poverty moment of not having the rent or losing a home, then we really start thinking, how can I ever think of creating this reality? It would be very sadistic of me. It's impossible. It would be very unloving. This is really an event that happened to me. And so it's either fate or it's God or it's someone else that doesn't like me. And so we really look outside for the source of those difficult moments without realizing that we do create our own reality with our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, our emotions, our attitudes, our behavior. And we need to understand that all of that which we are, the energy that we put out, becomes reflected in the reality outside of us, and is there for us to be looked at, understood, embraced, and learn how to shift it if we don't like it, or to accept it if it has something to teach us that we may even have difficulty learning, but that is important for us at the moment.
So you realize that these challenges that we face and these patterns that might come up in our life, or even things that are happening outside that we think are happening to us, that you realized at some point that you could use that as a way of developing of personal development, self-discovery?
You know, we are divine beings. In every cell of our body, every cell, there is a divine spark. And that divine spark is in our body and in our mind, in our whole being. And that being loves us. That divine beingness of us desires of our expansions, desires of our evolution, desires for us to get to experience and express that divinity. And so it does it through the experiences in life, through the events in life, through anything possible, other people, relationships, a disaster, things that seem so far away from us, a war on the other side of the world, or a disaster very close to us, or beautiful things. Everything that happens to us is a reflection of something that is a gift. It is a learning. It has a wonderful way for us to embrace and really grok and draw the gift that it has for us.
So can you walk through some of the steps of how you would take an event or something and make it personal and understand it?
So let's say a negative event, something difficult.
Or there's plenty of those right now, right?
Right, there is plenty of those. But, you know, I don't want to take one that is too far from us. I'd like to take one that maybe every one of us has experienced or is familiar with. So let's just say that I am somebody that is yearning for a relationship that is not coming. It doesn't seem to come. I think I feel open to a relationship. I think I feel welcoming of a relationship, but somehow this relationship doesn't seem to happen. If I am really, truly desirous to get to know myself, and if I'm ready to look at this issue seriously, I can do a process that I can share with you, Jennifer, that has 4 steps. The first one is very, very, very simple and very easy, which is I recognize that there is an issue. I recognize I want something that I don't see my have it. I recognize there is a feeling of lack in my life, and there is a vision that if this thing came to us, it would enrich my life. And so there is a sadness, there is a yearning, there's something that it's a little bit of a problem for me. I want a relationship and I don't know why it's not coming. Okay, I recognize the issue, the problem, the difficulty. Now, the second step of this 4 steps process, it's the most difficult. Because the second step asks me to acknowledge my part in the matter. And instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances, fate is not bringing me the Prince Charming, God doesn't want my happiness, and I wonder why it's testing me this way or whatever, I will take total responsibility for my lack of relationship. And I would start acknowledging, first of all, what is. What is I don't have a relationship. And if I really believe that I create my own reality, I would acknowledge I am creating a lack of relationship in my life. So once I acknowledge that that is my doing, right now in my reality, this is what's so. And I am a co-creator of this reality. So this is what is it? Then I can say, what am I getting from not having what I think I want? What am I getting? What are the negative payoffs that not having a relationship may bring me, that give me more mileage than if I had a relationship? What is that I prefer to not have than having? What is this? So I have to look at my ego gains, my negative payoffs for not having the relationship. And then I can start really confronting, brutally confronting the truth. I may have to recognize, in truth, I don't want it. but I like complaining and blaming and, being in the fantasy that I wanted. I like caressing this fantasy, even though I really don't want it if I look inside. Or else I have to acknowledge that I'm afraid of relationships. I've failed before. I don't want to fail again. I'm afraid. I was hurt before. I don't want to be hurt again. I have to recognize that there is something more to this. And I need to see it. I need to see that maybe I have some negative pleasures from not having it. I may blame that, well, there is nobody around. The men here are not evolved enough. Uh, whatever excuse, whatever justification I may say to my friends or acquaintances, to myself, I have to say, truth of the matter is, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of relationships. I'm afraid of being hurt. I'm afraid of being abandoned again. And I rather not take the risk. So I need to take the issue and look at it from a very different perspective, a truthful perspective about what is that I gain. Because if the reality is I don't have it, there is something that I prefer, which is not having, to having. So I need to see what that is.
Imagine, I know there's a couple more steps, but I want to stop here for a second, because I imagine you can recognize it, and that's up here, you're thinking about it. But then when you have to realize what the negative impact, you can't be logical anymore, because you can logic your way out of it. No?
Jennifer, we are not used to processing. We don't know how to process. We let me say, sometimes are very superficial. We just go around and do things out of habit, and we don't really stop and acknowledge the reality that we are creating. We just talk about it as if it's happening to us, and if, as if we are not that involved or that involved in creating it. We just take it that way. We are a bit superficial about this. We are not used to processing. Nobody has taught us, and we are not used to actually be brutally honest with ourselves.
And I think it's easy, again, to just be logical and say you have your reasons or your excuses, or you're pointing at other people of why something's happening. So if I don't have a relationship, I like the one where you said, well, there's no men around here that I would want to be with anyways. I can be very logical and never have to face that next layer of what is the truth.
Absolutely. And if we face the next layer of the truth, we may recognize that actually this reason of why I don't want relationships can come from disappointments, fears, difficulties that I've had in the past. Even as a child, maybe my parents were fighting all the time, and I don't want to repeat it. Like, things can come from very far away, but we haven't been used to really go back and recognize this and the impact that the various events in our lives since childhood have had in us, and how they have affected our thinking, our attitudes, our behavior, our beliefs, our feelings. All that impact has created us as we are now. And so we may have plenty of distorted beliefs, feelings, and attitudes and behaviors due to childhood strategies that we developed to cope with the mechanism of survival in the environment we were. And so we may not even know that we create not having a relationship because of something that happened in the past. But that is why, if we can stop in the second step and really go deep, we can start recognizing, I'm scared. I don't want a relationship. What I see around me is couples that are not really intimate, that are not really connected, that are not really happy with each other. And I don't want that kind of relationship. So we need to actually take the time to learn to process. And this is a very simple process, very, very simple. Not always easy, because it confronts us.
So these patterns, you're saying strategies from childhood that come back up over and over again create these things without us realizing it. So we're co-creating the situation.
We have had so much impact from events in the past, but the impact we have learned to minimize the negative impact by protecting ourselves with a variety of different strategies that helped us to cope with difficult events and situations. And so we now still cope in life with the same mechanism of survival. But in evolution, when we want to evolve, we need to stop and recognize there are issues in my life that I would like to resolve, and I need to see why I have the life that I have. Why have I created this difficulty now? What is really going on? And take it seriously. And then we can go back and realize, aha, that is the cause, that is the root cause. And I have actually protected myself from feeling again that disappointment, that pain, that difficulty by avoiding this and that and the other, not taking risks. So processing is how we evolve. And this particular process is easy enough if we are willing to be sincere and brutally honest with ourselves.
Okay, so I'm acknowledged, I recognize a difficulty, and now I acknowledge the impact. What happens next? What do I do?
We can forgive ourselves for having mistakenly carried forth a strategy that wasn't really working. Well, it worked for a while, or we thought we did. At least it saved us from a lot of pain, or so we thought. But now we are mature, we want to evolve, we want to be empowered, we want to do it differently. And so we forgive ourselves for having carried forth for quite a long time a situation that kind of kept us with a very, if not distorted vision, a very limited vision. And so we go into forgiveness, into compassion, into embracing ourselves and our limited modalities of coping with things in the world that we feared, that we were uncomfortable with, that we didn't know how to cope better back then, and that we carried forth up until now. And now we awaken, now that we've seen the impact that it has on our life doing that, now that we can see that we lived in denial of some of the feelings that really were involved in the situations, now that we are willing to actually allow ourselves to feel them and to confront them and to embrace them and to heal them, then we can forgive ourselves.
I think that was an important part too that you just mentioned about feeling the emotions when you're at that recognizing the impact. You can't just jump to, because you might have a lot of anger or things blocking you.
Exactly, you're very well, because it's easy to say, oh yeah, I don't want a relationship because my parents were fighting so much. I don't want to do it that way. I get it. Well, no, I have to actually recognize how difficult it was for me to be in that situation and how frightened I was that I would recreate that in my life, and how I chose to protect myself by not needing the relationship for fear of having to fall into that distress, into all of that pain and difficulty that I felt then. So yes, I not only have to recognize that impact it had then, but the pain that I had to block in order to then cope with life. And right now, I can feel the sadness, I can feel the pain that the child felt and how it coped with the best way it could. But right now, I'm willing to feel the sadness of the child and the sadness of having negated my self relationship because I didn't want to take the risk. So there's feelings involved, and it's crucial that we feel them before we actually forgive ourselves for having done all of that up until now.
I love listening to you talk on this subject because I can get it intellectually. And I'm going back to that part again. But when you say confront, that I have to confront myself, that's a topic, I understand that. But you're really talking about confronting those emotions within myself. It's not out there, it's going in. Yeah.
And sometimes we have to confront the lack of emotion. For example, in my life, the way I coped with the trauma of my childhood was to actually negate my self-feelings. At the time, I numbed myself completely because there was so much trauma, so much confusion, so much distress, that the only way that I thought at the time I would be able to survive and cope would be to numb myself. So I have to confront the numbness. I have to recognize that I've gone through some events of my life operating with that ancient strategy in order to deal with things that were confusing, that were distressing, that were overwhelming. And so the way for me to deal with them will be to just numb out.
Can you make that a little more concrete? Because you had a good example of, what you're talking about, of what happened as a child.
Okay, so my mother died when I was close to 4 years old. My father put me in an orphanage. So for me, all of a sudden, 3.5, to lose my mother, there is no mother, and there is no my father. I am in a place with 40 other girls and nuns. It's totally confusing. It's totally distressing. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know anything. And I have to abide by new rules that I don't know, and that it's very, very confusing and distressing and frightening. And so I numb out because I can't be crying for my mother and father. I'm there needing to survive in my new environment. And so numbness comes in order to not feel, just do, just be. Let's follow the rule, and so that becomes a strategy that is carried on for all the years that I've been there, which were 13 years. And so that was a way to just cope with being an orphan, being alone, being on my own, being left out, being abandoned, being in a situation that is totally not feeding me, nourishing me emotionally, spiritually, physically. I am in a situation where I'm waiting to see what's going to happen when I will go out. But my strategy is numbness. And so when I go out and I meet the world, that continues to be a strategy for me in order to cope with another new environment that I don't know anything about. And so numbness serves me, or so I believe, in order to cope and to get somewhat to be in charge of my new life, my new situation, and not collapse or not, be ineffectual, inefficient, but being able to look for a job, look for a house, look for things. Who am I? What am I going to do? What is happening in the world? How should I behave? So numbness helps me, but only up to a point, up to the point in which I learn to be someone that wants to grow, wants to evolve. And then there comes a moment in which I have to actually confront that. And that happened through a very distressing event. I was in California, and I was part of a very powerful women's group, a beautiful women's group, a group that I felt like so happy to be part of, so honored to be part of. But I always felt like cheating. I always felt like I was there by mistake. I had so little self-esteem that I felt like, oh my God, what am I doing here with all these people who are powerhouses? Like I was in total awe of them. So I would just be there in my numbness, in my invisibility. I was just like, I was there. just like, oh my God, hoping that they would not pay attention to me because, as I say, I felt like I did not belong there until the day in which they confronted me and everything came crashing down because all of a sudden I was in the hot seat. All of a sudden, my numbness came 100% because I couldn't deal with the onslaught of feedback, of confrontation. I was in complete numbness as my tower was falling down. And I had to leave the group, and I had to go for months in attempting to process what had happened to me and confront what had happened to me. And so there comes a times, Jennifer, in which life shakes you up and says, okay, been there, done that, it worked somewhat, now enough, and wake up. And that was a big wake-up call for me. And it taught me a lot, but it was painful. It was very painful because I felt again abandoned, orphaned. It was such a shocking experience, which I minimized with my numbness, but slowly but surely I had to receive and feel the pain, the shock, the loss, the abandonment, the confrontation, the sorrow. I had to. It was very powerful.
And as you said, the divine self gave you this opportunity to grow.
Absolutely.
So we are talking to Shama Viola and having a conversation on the power of processing your events and things that are going on in your life. We're going to go to a break right now. And when we come back, we're going to hear about the fourth step of this powerful process. We'll be right back.
Om Times TV. There is no greater mystery in life than you. So why not take a fully experiential plunge into the depths of your being to uncover and retrieve all the secrets and wisdom your soul is crying out for you to know? If you enjoy Adventures in Consciousness, the conversation, you'll love Adventures in Consciousness, the course. Join Jennifer in this unique 13-week series of journeys specifically designed to unlock the mysteries of yourself. Each week, you'll journey progressively deeper into the meta realm, where, freed from the limitations of your mind, you'll get to play and explore the inner and outer reaches of your awareness. The next series of Adventures in Consciousness, the course, is starting soon. Find out more and stake your place at jenniferivanco.com. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly.
Lights out.
And put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
So, welcome back. Welcome to Adventures in Consciousness, the conversation. I'm here with my dear friend, Shama Viola, and we're talking about processing events in our life. We've talked about 3 steps: recognizing that there's an issue, a challenge. We've talked about the impact, recognizing the impact and confronting yourself about the impact. And we've talked about forgiveness. Shama, would you like to continue with what is the fourth step?
Yes. Okay. So yes, we have seen the issue that we want to modify, change, the issue that is kind of a block in our life. And we have seen that we have participated in the creation of that. And we have recognized and acknowledged that there was something underneath that we had to confront in order to take total responsibility for this particular creation. And after doing that, we have forgiven ourselves for our shortcoming, for our short vision, for having done something that was a little bit like cheating or trying to bluff at life. And now, in that forgiveness, we can feel liberated from the past. There is a fourth step that is very crucial. Without it, we wouldn't move forward. We would have understood the past and maybe felt a bit self-loving towards ourselves for having recognized our shortcomings. But the truth of the matter is we are co-creators of our reality, and we need to co-create something better than what we have done up until now that we have recognized we had limited ourselves in our co-creation. The fourth step is change. Change is, if up until now I've had this particular modality, this particular behavior, this particular belief that was so limiting, I need to change those aspects that are the elements that create my reality. So I'll take my example from before. If my small child believed that numbness would help me to survive, I need to change that particular limited belief. And I need to recognize that numbness limits me. It's not something that I really want to carry forth. I want to change that limiting belief that numbness helps me, and I want to open up to new beliefs, new attitudes, new feelings. Numbness helped me by eliminating feelings and by making me behave as, as if I didn't feel, as if I didn't need, as if I, how can I say, in a way that was very limiting. So right now, by changing my belief and recognizing that I want to feel, I want to experience life, I want to participate in life, I want to feel powerful in my life, I want to change, then I have a tool for change, which is choice. Then I make different choices. So when I find myself tending towards numbness, I will make a different choice. And I will ask myself, what do I really feel? And I will be willing to risk to feel those feelings that usually I would have numbed out. So change is crucial, but it has to be done through choices, different choices than before. So I have to change my choice making. And it's not always easy. It's easy to fall into the same trap, into the same routine, into the habit, into the familiarity. Very easy. Change is conscious will, desire, determination, focus into a new modality, a new behavior, a new risk, maybe risk-taking step. So change is very, very important. And it is involved choices. And choices are always of two kinds. We can have growth choices or fear choices. There is no other way. When I choose I can choose motivated by fear. And in that way, I would choose a limited way for me to feel safer, to feel protected, to, fear-motivated choices will be limiting, will be contracting, will be something that wouldn't make me go forward, that for sure. Growth choices instead are risk-taking, are opening, are courageous, are expanding, are, you don't know, it's really jumping without a net, but trusting in life, trusting in yourself, trusting in your ability to cope with reality that you're creating, and really wanting to live life to the fullest. So growth choices would help me to shift from old limiting beliefs, attitudes, etc., into new modalities of life that bring me evolution, bring me expansion.
I imagine it's not just the choice the first time, it's a continuous choice too, consistency.
Exactly, because we have done a certain pattern for so long. It's so easy to fall into it. It's so familiar. It's so comforting. It makes us feel like, oh yeah, but for now, just for now. But no, we need to actually wake up and say, wait a minute, what's happening here? What do I really want? What do I really feel? What can I do differently? Because I have to do things differently if I want to change. Otherwise, I repeat the same thing as before. So change is very, very crucial. It's what makes me move forward, because it makes me do something different, a different choice, a different routine, a different modality. I'm taking risks. And I may make a mistake. I may fail. I may not always be right. But I need to play with life, and I need to put myself out, and I need to make a growth choice instead of the familiar fear choice, which seemingly gives us a sense of security.
So I guess it's also confronting yourself in every moment. How are you feeling going forward? Like, you can't, I'm really interested in this idea of being numb is something that I think we all use at some degree because we use our logic to numb us out.
Yeah. Yes, it's a good point. It's true. When we totally identify with our mental abilities and we reside there and we count on the logic and on the rational to save us from difficulties, from making growth choices, because it makes sense to do it differently, but they are fear choices and they are justified by the mind because it's logical, it's rational. I've always done it this way. I've experienced in that, and everybody does it that way anyway, whatever. Then yes, it is easy to fall into believing the justification for the fear, the cover up for the fear, that will convince me that I should stick with my old, safe, oriented choices. And growth choices are risky, and they may be unpopular. They may make us fall down and scrape our knees, and there's no guarantee. The safe choices give us a guarantee. You've done it all this time, and here you are. You're alive and well, so you could do it again. So like there is a logic to it to continue in that way, but there is no evolution there.
Well, and I look at on a global level, the evolution that we're trying to make in this world, we all keep kind of going back to patterns that work, and we're going to keep what we have. And right now it's that Renaissance time. We need to, what's new, get to that excitement level inside of us.
Exactly. And you see sometimes, Jennifer, how people that are very courageous and very outspoken and very out there, very charismatic, they get shut down. People are focusing on them and just shooting them down because they represent to us a courage that we all would love to have, but we don't want to see it. It scares us so much. So we want to have them fall down and say, no, 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 because we want to keep ourselves in the safety of what we think we should remain in. Because when people take us on a new course and inspire us to go in new direction and take risks, it frightens us a lot. And so most often society really is taking these people and they enjoy making them fall, really making their life miserable, because we want the status quo. We want for us to be always in the safe place instead of going forward and following somebody that is showing us that there are other options, there are other possibilities, but you have to think for yourself, you have to do it, you have to risk, and you have to have the courage to pursue something new.
That's another thought that came to mind while you were talking, is how we need other people as mirrors out there. And so what do you think about therapy or coach or somebody that can mirror us, or even groups that can help us through this process?
I think that there are plenty of time in lives in which these people or these groups can really support us, can really be that particular element of mirroring, reflecting back to us a bit of a higher energetic stand so that we can be inspired. We need people to inspire us to take the steps that we need to take in order to evolve. If we surround ourselves with people that totally agree with us and they are just as frightened as us and they just want the status quo, well, then it's a boring situation and it's flat and plain and not evolutionary path. But if you find somebody that somehow stimulates your thoughts, your feelings, your new beliefs, your new ideas, it's wonderful to allow this person to reflect back to you a higher way of thinking, a higher way of being, so that you can find them in yourself and match that particular resonance. And so inspiring people are that. They are resonating a little bit higher than us so that we can raise ourselves to match that resonance. And then we'll find somebody else to match that resonance with. And we will evolve with the help of each other.
So I want to talk about the course that's coming up that we're going to be doing, called Self-Awareness and Self-Realization. And in this, you just work with these different steps?
Yes, because for growth, when we grow, and the 7 steps are towards growth-oriented arrival at the realization, when we grow, we need to process. We need to see where we were and to know where we want to go. And so process helps us to confront ourselves and evolve and make the changes and make the choices that can allow change. For example, in the first step, we're going to be talking about the importance of impact. When we do not recognize impact, then we live in denial. We live in totally this particular blinder state and not wanting to see any larger than that. When we take off this and allow ourselves to feel the impact of our thoughts, our feelings, our words, our action, etc., then we need to process all that we have denied, all that we have allowed ourselves to deny, because we tend to live in denial. We tend to not want to see everything, to not want to know everything, to not want to feel everything. And so denial is an easy way out from uncomfortability. And as you can see this very well in people that are addicted to anything from sex to drinks to drugs, denial is it's where they live in order not to feel the self-destructive patterns that they are involved in. So it's a safety mechanism. I'm in denial. I don't want to see it. I'm going to continue. I don't want to feel that I'm actually self-destroying myself. So the process, the 4 steps that we just mentioned, is a way to actually process all the things that come up when you stop denial, when you stop seeing, when you stop not wanting to see things or not wanting to feel things. And then when things come up, then this process allows you to keep on evolving and going and changing.
It's funny, you bring up denial, and immediately I think I don't have denial, but I do have denial. It's like this play of
you know, the fun thing about denial, I don't have denial. Everyone has denial. Says, I'm not having denial. That's the you don't have it. I'm totally fine. No, that's the beauty. It's funny. It's funny. Yeah, we are convinced. We convince ourselves that we are where we are, and that is fine. But we don't want to see certain things. We don't want to feel certain things. We don't want to say certain things.
Well, I think to be human, or to create your ego, your place in what you're doing, you have to have some denial, but then to look at the denial to see if it's serving you or not.
It's not denial. Then there is a choice. I'm choosing not to tell you something. I'm choosing not to feel offended by what you're saying, because I know you're not doing it to hurt me. I choose, like there is choice. When there is no denial, there is awareness. And I'm aware that you are where you are. And where you are somebody that is talking that way, that is believing that way. And that's just the way it is. So like, I don't need to change you. I am aware that that's where you are, and I accept you where you are. And I'm not, there's a choice. I'm not denying myself the feelings or I do things by choice.
So you've talked about these 4 steps and how important it is. What would you want? What was if it's one thing, simple thing for people to take away from this conversation?
To know that you can apply this to most anything. So, for example, there are times that I am at home in bed, and you know, at night, when before going to sleep, you may have, you may go over your day, or you may, yes, kind of go over your days and think about things that have happened. And then you may just see one small event, one situation where you felt just a little bit uncomfortable with somebody in an interaction. And it's kind of good to take this process and apply it. So for example, recognizing, first step, recognizing, I recognize that I've been uncomfortable in this interaction. So for now, I don't know anything else other than this. Then I will go into acknowledge what was my payoff for not responding, not confronting, not answering. And I may realize either I've been afraid that this person will take it personally. I was afraid of not saying it correctly. I was afraid that this issue would be too difficult to talk about. I have to recognize that my uncomfortability as a gift for me. So even such a small thing as feeling uncomfortable in interaction, I can process it and see what is my part in the matter. I didn't say something. I didn't want to share the feeling with the person. Why didn't I want to do it? Was I afraid? Was I protecting the person from my feelings? You know, I need to look even in small things like this at my pattern. that maybe I have a pattern of choosing not to speak up when I feel uncomfortable. I don't want to make other people uncomfortable. That would be my belief, that if I'm saying what I feel, others may be uncomfortable. That could be a distorted belief that I'm carrying. So then once I do this acknowledgement, I can very easily and sweetly feel compassion for myself and forgive myself for having that pattern and for keeping that pattern alive in my life, and feeling like I really don't want to carry it like this. I would like to learn to do it differently. I would like to actually say something to this person or to people when I feel uncomfortable. I would like to learn to speak up in a way that is gentle, direct, but honest. So I may want to make a different choice next time this happens. So even something so small as this can be processed, and you can bring awareness to some of the patterns that you carry and that seemingly one doesn't pay attention to. And because they're kind of like, they don't hurt anybody, they don't seem to be so major, but actually can be shifted and changed into more workable patterns or ways.
Conscious choice making, bringing consciousness to it. Beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Shama, for being with us today. If you are interested in hearing more from Shama or working, she does wonderful divinations with her Bratelet cards, and she does sessions with people individual. You can reach her at shamaviola.com, which will be listed on my site. And again, thank you, Shama.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's always a pleasure being with you. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to invite you one more time to join us in April for this 4-week course called Self-Awareness to Self-Realization. This is a course that has some pre-recorded sections that will be offered once a week, along with live time on Zoom for sharing with the group. And then at the end, we will have a 2-hour session with Shama for questions and answers. So to find out more, please visit my website at www.jenniferivanko.com, or you can contact me anytime with questions, and I hope we see you. Namaste, and have a beautiful day.